Hello, and it's Alan Shawn from the Fan Pub again.
Yep, good to be back out. And today's video, what are we doing today?
We're looking at the latest ADP Risers and Fallers, so who's hot and who's not really, basically.
Hot to trot, ready for the fantasy season to kick off in a few days' time. Yeah, so these are Fantasy Pros ADP Risers.
Yeah, okay, and Fallers. So we've got 5 of each. We've got five
I've no
risers.
idea who's on your list, so we're going to discuss them openly as fantasy enthusiasts and drafters. So who's your first on your list?
Well, probably the hottest player at the moment, and no surprise really, Duke Johnson. He's up to 61 overall.
I guess it makes sense. I just won't be paying that kind of premium for a third down back, though. 61 seems incredibly expensive. I'm kind of surprised by that kind of climb. I mean, there's a very reasonable shot Texans take another running back before the start of the season.
I think there's every chance, yeah.
So I think that's a bit optimistic a price range. I get it. At the moment, it looks great, but I think you always got to keep your drafting head on. And when you were getting him, maybe as he was falling, that's good value, but not at this price now. No, I would be looking at other players.
I'd want him more in the 80-100 range.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Because you've already got a big stable of players that you can attach around him. So if he takes off, great, and if he doesn't, then fair enough.
Yeah, because fantasy is a constantly evolving landscape, really. At the moment, I mean, he's definitely the number one back there, but like Sean says, they're likely to pick somebody up.
There's so many unknowns with that situation with the Texans, and it's going to be a big decision, but it's going to happen. I think something will happen with it. I'm sure of it before the start of the season. That will change the whole price. He'll suddenly fall back 40 spots, so you don't want to be paying that premium yet. But if you got him cheap, great. Well done to you.
Okay, next one on the list. Curtis Samuel. He's someone I've been talking up for a bit. But now he's risen to 74 overall. He's up 23 spots. So everyone, the cat's out of the bag on this one, isn't it?
I see what you were saying before, and I think one of our people on out who've been following our channel very closely has mentioned Curtis Samuel. That's it's definitely got us all thinking about him. But now the price has reached a point that's very expensive.
You're losing a lot of the
value.
Upside,
the value, the upside is gone. So I think if you drafted him earlier, 23 spots earlier, well done. I think you might have got yourself a little bargain. But at that price, I think there are better players around again.
The value's sort of been squeezed out.
Yeah, the worry is it could still climb further. That's always the concern with these late risers. So not for me, I'm afraid, at that price.
Okay,
but I totally get the logic.
Next one's an interesting player actually, because there hasn't been a lot of talk about him at all. But he probably is a really good value. Not so much now because he's risen 20 places. ADP of 80, Marvin Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he's underrated. I mean, he always has been. I mean, he'll do a steady job in your team. He's not like, I'd say he's a low-end wide receiver 2, if I'm honest. A low-end one, with sometimes, delivering poor numbers and sometimes slightly better than wide receiver 2s. But he's relatively consistent. I mean, I think this guy deserves the climb. Somewhat.
ADP 80 about wrong?
That's about fair. I think that's probably fairer than the 100 range.
Probably more than fair, yeah.
That's fair. I mean, you've only got Golladay and himself as the, Golladay should be the 1, he should be the 2. That kind of makes sense. Golladay's proved he can do it.
They're going to have to throw a lot.
They're going to have to throw all day. And I think Jones benefits just as much as Golladay. And arguably, you'd probably want the cheaper of the 2 this year. So, I'm happy. I'm not saying I'm excited about taking shares.
You're a defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
and you are setting up against the Lions. Who do you single out as a wide receiver 1 now? Who's the biggest threat? Is it Golladay?
Golladay is the biggest threat, but we highlighted that on the show 2 years ago. So we really picked him out early.
He was a.
We picked him out as a bold prediction, and he panned out to be exactly that. He was everything we thought he would become. He's now at that point, so his ceiling is where it is, and there's no point. We're not talking about him anymore. But Marvin Jones that's still cheap, and I always think when you get situations like this where you can't see any more squeezing out the fantasy points, I think the guy who's second has more chance to do better than you think. So at 80, that's still good value, I think.
Another guy
and a 0, that could be a 0. You might have gone all in on running backs. That could be a good little sneaky target there.
Okay, well, yeah, no, it's a good point. The next player is Terrell Williams. He's up to ADP of 123, up still 15 spots.
Still very cheap. I mean, with all the arguments about Brown's head not being it, frostbite feet, and various other issues, and you raised the point maybe frostbite in the head, maybe.
Falling out with Big Ben.
Terrell Williams still remains great value, even at that ADP climb. That's still not serious enough where I think he probably deserves to be. So that's still cheap. I quite like a share of him.
This is just kind of ADPs writing themselves, and these are a lot of players we actually flagged up for their ADP being wrong, and they are starting to correct now. So I mean, go back and look at our sleeper videos or our people to target late in drafts, because a lot of these are on it. Okay, the fifth riser, another guy who's on our list, Jameson Crowder. He's sneakily climbing the draft up 19 to 128. Still all right for a PPR draft, I think.
I think for a PPR draft, you're still getting a good player at a very cheap cost, and I like players like this, particularly with certain draft boards falling a certain way. That could be a player that you might want a share or two of. So he's still quite cheap. I think that's still quite fair, and rightly the ADPs have climbed. So yeah, good point.
Just an honourable mention to Adam Humphries, also at 19 to 160. He's another guy we said who's crazily cheap. He's open. He's probably underrated player.
I still think that's got to climb further. I mean, again, thinking about the Tennessee Titans and what's likely to happen, I think his price will still climb further yet.
Yeah, I mean, ADP at 160 is really
very
still cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, last throw of the dart in a few leagues, worth a shot.
Could catch like 70 passes or something.
Yeah, it's very good.
Right, not surprisingly, here are some of the fallers. The lowest one we'll talk about, Rojo, Ronald Jones.
Yeah.
Sounds
like a clown's name, and is turning that way, isn't it? He's going to have a lot to prove this year, that guy. What's he fallen to now?
Well, he's down 17 to 141.
It's getting worse, isn't it? It's getting worse. Do you remember where he started off the year?
Oh, probably 60, 70, 80.
Yeah, he was in the 60, 70 range to start the season off. Look how far the fall has gone. I mean,
he's doubled that to 141.
He's done well. I mean, it's very rare you can double your ADP. Well done.
I'll just tell you the vibes aren't good for him.
He's not blocking well. He's not trending well. He's not doing well.
He hasn't stayed healthy either.
He hasn't stayed healthy.
He actually hyperextended his knee, didn't he? It's quite nasty, actually. I saw a picture of it the other day.
This is a backfield almost entirely to avoid. Not complete. There is some value in it, but that's certainly a player I'm not surprised by the fall, and I think that's 141 is being kind. I think there are better players we've just mentioned on the wide receiver list you want to take over him who are lower down. So deserves to fall further, I think.
He's fallen enough so already.
I want to see more.
You want to see him?
See more.
You want to see him going to
undraftable is where he should be heading. Really, I think almost. We'll see this year will be the final roll of the dice for him. I think.
Okay, well, another guy that's actually fallen. I'm quite surprised after the pre-season he's had is James Washington. He's fell 19 to 132.
Don't get that at all. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Is it people buying into the fact that Moncrief's the number 2 and that Washington?
Well, I mean, if you've watched the pre-season tape, you would argue that Washington's been the better back. The better wide receiver.
Well, he has, yeah.
And he's done enough to justify being the wide receiver 2. I don't understand that fall at all, and I just don't get that. I don't understand why he's fallen. I could understand if he'd only climbed a couple of places. That's fair enough. But I don't get the fall. So that's cheap.
No, I don't either.
I mean, if I'm taking a shot down there at a dart for
132,
yeah. I don't mind a wide receiver like that who could give me boom or bust. I think he's a fabulous player for best ball. So, and a couple of other leagues where you need wide receiver depth, he could be worth a shot. So happy with that.
Another guy, which probably highlights how good our list was. If you go back and look at it a week or so ago about our sleepers where the ADP was wrong. This guy. Jordan Howard is probably, the chief, person who's actually is costing me because he's fallen to 102 now in that backfield with Miles Sanders, who he tipped, rising up to 60s, 70s, 80s. Jordan Howard's fallen. It's actually in the hundreds now, 102.
It's a cheap price, actually. I mean, I don't actually mind that price for Jordan Howard right now. And in some leagues, I could see me getting him because... It's not guaranteed that it's Miles' job yet.
No, it isn't.
So Howard has a value even if it's the first few weeks of the season. If you look at the Eagles' schedule, the first few weeks of the season, Owls highlighted their schedule for the whole year actually on running. Jordan Howard has a value, and even if it was like a handcuff kind of role, could have a value yet later in the season. So
they like to rotate anyway, the Eagles, don't they?
So I don't mind him at all, and he's getting cheaper, and that's always a good sign in fantasy. So it's not like a player I've given up on hope that there's value in, and he may get cut and used elsewhere. So
yeah, I mean, if he ended up somewhere like the Texans,
there's a possibility. So I do like that price at 102.
Okay, on to the next one.
I haven't given up with him.
This is somebody who talked about the would suffer this year with the emergence of David Montgomery that you predicted. It was a bold prediction.
Yeah.
Tarek Cohen down 21 to 82. That sounds like everyone else is catching up.
Yeah, we see that it's very interesting this because on the bold prediction list we put Tarek Cohen on it like a couple of years back. We talked about him quite a lot, and I picked him out.
He was on our Dynasty Rookie Flyers.
Yeah,
track,
and we talked about him a lot as a good steal for last year, and he panned out to be a great steal of a player last year. We've not talked about him at all this year, and the reason is because of the way that the Bears are changing their offensive approach, Nagy's system, and obviously the David Montgomery going there is that for me is the perfect fit for the perfect player. And the biggest sufferer will be Tarek Cohen, because as much as people have said, well, he'll get work and all the rest of it.
He will get work.
You have to understand what this is going to do. You are looking at a running back, and there are very few of these. When we talk about 3-down backs, there's not many in the NFL, and Montgomery's one of them. So what that means is he can stay on all the time. And you've got to rotate, of course.
I mean, Cohen does play in the slot quite a bit. So.
Yeah, and they can use him in different packages, definitely. But as far as his value, last year's value is gone. You have to reevaluate him, and at 82, it's still too high.
I mean, if you're a Cohen fan, I mean, 82, I don't think it's a bad price.
I still think he needs to fall further for that to be correct. So I still think that's still high, because I think there are better players around the 82 mark for me in leagues where I'm taking shots that have got much bigger upsides, much better floors. Still got to fall, but it's a good sign that people are catching up.
Okay,
for the podcast anyway, at least for us.
Yeah, the last one, unsurprisingly, T.Y. Hilton, he's fallen 90 places to 52 with the Andrew Luck news.
It makes him good value there. I mean, 5th round in a small league. I think that's very fair value for T.Y. Hilton. He's arguably a very good wide receiver. I know that he's going to suffer this year, but he could arguably be your 5th player off the board, or maybe your 4th. I don't think that's that bad. You could have 3 running backs and T.Y. Hilton as your first wide receiver. That's not the worst crime in the world, is it? That seems okay.
Oh, you could have 2 running backs and 2 second wide receiver.
It's not.
But do you trust him with Brissett?
It's going to be like we said in one of the previous videos. It's going to be a bit of boom and bust here. It's going to be some weeks where it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be weeks where it's not so good. So
that's not good for a fantasy.
It's not.
You don't know.
There's going to be some inconsistencies, and you have to factor that into your draft. So the price is getting better. I still think it will fall a bit more before it's all said and done.
Well, I think it will as well, because.
But I do.
He's
like the
a great
prices
player, isn't he? I mean, he's a great player, but the Andrew Luck really does hurt him, unfortunately, and that's just the way of life sometimes.
Interesting list.
Okay, what do you think? Do you think these players are falling unfairly? I mean, do you like the ones that? I mean, obviously, a lot of the experts like the ones that are climbing, but do you like them as well? Do you think? Would you pay ADP of 61 for Duke? I know a lot of you would, because I've seen it happening in the drafts I'm in. People are taking him and they're taking him.
I get it, but I just think you've got to be slightly cautious. And one of the jobs of being, I think, good analyst, I really believe that the key is to actually understand the real value of a player.
Well, exactly. I mean, when they sign a running back, which they will do, that price will automatically drop. It's just the way it is.
You have to remember the logic. Duke was not brought in to be the starter. He was a complement to Lamar Miller.
He's an injury. He's already had an injury. He's back now, but he's a new guy in a new team. So.
That, by definition, tells you that they haven't quite finished shuffling the pack. So I think there will probably still be a chance. I'd be surprised if he's left completely. I mean,
to carry the job
on his own. I mean, maybe they're comfortable with some of the people underneath.
Yeah, some of the rookies,
which we're not absolutely. We haven't mentioned any of them really for the show because they haven't shown anything in pre-season, haven't done anything yet. Maybe somebody will emerge, and that could be a backfield to watch. But at the moment, and particularly first week or 2 weeks of waivers, but at the moment, we know nothing else.
Well, you make a good point. That is a good thing. If you're drafting, shortly or even later on today. I mean, it is worth looking at that news, worth checking out that backfield, because if you get onto it earlier, then
there's a guy there I think worth a shot, Crockett, but there are a few others that are worth a look as well. But it really is impossible to tell at this stage. There's no one there that I go, yes, that's the guy. That will only shake out.
It seems like they're bringing a veteran running back.
I think so.
Whether it be Howard, Ajayi,
or very surprised.
Kenyon Drake.
Unless they've got somebody that think they're absolutely confident around, then I think they bring in a veteran to stabilise what they've got. And then carry on, because it's a good team, good offense, and it's just missing one ingredient now.
What, getting Alfred Blue back?
Well, let's hope it's not Alfred Blue, but if it is, it's still a value. He'll have a value. So we'll see what happens. You'll be drafting him Saturday if he comes back.
Alfred Blue? Yeah, I would, probably.
You would.
It'd hurt, but you'd have to do it.
Anyway.
Okay, if you enjoyed the list, like I say, let us know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up.
And please subscribe and please share the videos.
And thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.